amendment of the Electoral Act has been officially completed as President Bola Tinubu signed into law the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Despite a groundswell of public outcry and bold antagonism by various interests, Tinubu rose starkly in defense of the controversial bill as he assented to it. On his part, Senate President Godswill Akpabio stated that the Electoral Act 2026 will ensure that every Nigerian's vote counts. Now that the president has given his assent, are we back to the refrain of go to court if something goes wrong during the elections? Joining us on this show to review the electoral reforms is Ene Obi, a human rights and social justice advocate and former country director, ActionAid Nigeria. Good morning, Ene Obi, and good to have you on the program.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, two things. Some people have complained about the speed with which President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed the bill into law, which was very controversial. What's your reaction? And then the second thing is Festus Keyamo saying that so many people are presumptuous. A group of regulars in front of the National Assembly carrying placards, which includes your good self, I assume, television commentators, social media activists, and then the 15 senators that protested in the Senate, and the less than 45 out of over 300 lawmakers in the House of Reps, that they have arrogated to themselves the illusion, the assumption, the delusion that they are speaking for the generality of the Nigerian people. And he says, how did they arrive that is the position of the Nigerian people? In other words, the minority arrogating more authority to itself than the majority. Those two issues.
Thank you very much for having me on the program, and well done for the great work that you and colleagues are doing. It's been a long walk, and like you already noted, this is one of the fastest bills ever signed into law. And what that signifies, because I remember the 2022 Electoral Act, all of us were on ground. You remember from 2015 down to 2022, it took 7 times for it to go to the President Muhammadu Buhari, of blessed memory now, to sign the bill into law. And even when he was signing it, there were so many contradictions, and some of those contradictions came in from the National Assembly. I remember a friend called me from the National Assembly to tell me that you guys are on the street. This was 2022, 2021, 2022. You are on the street, but the president is not going to sign that law because we gave him what he wanted, but we put a clause there. You remember the popular clause then, and then, so he said he was not going to sign it, but we said, the president, you promised Nigerians that you are going to sign this into law. Sign it and take it back. He signed it. They felt he was stubborn for signing it, and eventually when he took it back, they, of course, flushed it back into his, they did not do the amendment that he took it back for. When we are talking about, the stage of things now, when I look at the copy that I have gotten, I hope the Gazette is soon so that it can be available to everybody. You see the Amendment Act, is talking in the first place, it talks about, that's the Electoral Act. It talks about the regulation of, the conduct of federal, state, and area councils, in the Federal Capital Territory. What was the speed? The speed, what was it about? Is it about, the FCT elections? Election is being on the ground, and the elections have been announced with using the law that was on ground at the time. So are you going to ignore all of that and now say, because when you bring in a law, You have to also allow time to pass and let people be trained to know what the law really is. But in terms of the mention, they said area councils. I didn't see local government there. And I'm looking at it, I said, okay, they went down to go and mention, they went to the mention, I think section 60, brought us back to the real issue that we're talking about. And in section 60, of course, they did all the analysis. Section 60, subsection 1, is that the presiding officer shall, after counting the votes at the polling unit, enter the votes scored by each candidate in a form, prescribed by INEC. They know what they're talking about already, but you look at subsection 3, the presiding officer shall electronically transmit, the result from each polling unit to the IREP portal, and such transmission shall be done after the prescribed ECA has been signed and stamped by the presiding officer, and so on and so forth. But they're stamping now, so we are now going to be looking at INEC. You are now saying, it has to be signed and stamped. We know that they have gone to elections before, and then you don't have either the ink pad and so on. The preparation of INEC is very, very essential, despite the fact that they are reducing the time. From what the Senate President said, every voter, every vote will be counted. Every voter, they will ensure that the votes are counted. In India, we have 980 million registered voters, about 640 million, voted in the last election. That very day, the election, everything came out. And from the long history, Nigerians had advocated for even electronic transmission, electronic voting, which will be, you can see live in terms of the progression of the elections. What we have asked, yes, you can accuse us and say, why are we out? Why are we talking? You are the true representatives. But I can tell you, Ruben, that certain things played out in this particular incident. You had so many, with the House of Representatives, they had no problem. It was massive voting for the electronic transmission. Completely, mandatory transmission. And then we come to the Senate. But at least you could see that when they now adopted the Senate version, whatever the Senate did, at least some sanity came up there, that there are still some Nigerians that are standing upright for Nigeria. The love of country should be what should control our hearts. What is your love of country? What is your patriotism, the level of your patriotism? I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest. What have you really done? Can you go to bed with it? After we have long progressed, because going into 2023 general election, when we went for off-cycle elections, because I was the convener of the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room at the time. And so we are moving from one point to the other. But at least some people stood up and said no. And then another dimension that I see in it was when Senator Abaribe got up and said, people have to be counted. And Senator Bamidele Okoyemi, came out to protect him for that. I think that is something good that Senator Bamidele was a students' union president in Uniben when I was a student, and I was student union president at the University of Jos. People have worked together. They need to stand up more, and we need to see the attitude. I am happy at the House of Representatives when they turned it around. People protested. And that is what we want. It means there is still sanity, because wherever there is huge corruption, there is still a level of sanity. We are going to focus seriously. We are mobilizing, because we can't just say we are going to be quiet. We will let them hear our voices. How we are not happy about some of the things that have been done.
If I may interject.
Yes.
Festus Keyamo, the Minister of Aviation Development, says you don't speak for the Nigerian people. How did the civil society activists, social media activists, and the minority in the National Assembly arrive at the assumption that they are expressing the wishes of the Nigerian people?
It's unfortunate that someone like, Keyamo can say that. He was on this side before. Ruben, you know that. And the attitude of people by saying that because these people, Tinubu is in power, we cannot protest. Tinubu was on the other side. He used to come to the barricade. Or was that a fake attitude? Because if you see the level and the transmission of this attitude, and then we are just before the FCT election. You know what happened in the FCT? President Tinubu lost in the FCT. And you know the law, the Supreme Court, we are going to really focus on the judiciary. The Judicial Commission will focus on the Ministry of Justice, will focus on it. NBA need to take up and hold their members accountable for what they are doing to this country, because every one of them is on oath while moving. And so when some activists are now saying, what do they think? What are they doing? Are they speaking for the country? Activists have always, we fought for democracy itself. We were at the barricade fighting for democracy, campaign for democracy. You were there, and we need to come back to what Guardian said. The Guardian says conscience is a wound. Let's look at our conscience. While speaking, because we are in power now, power is also very temporal. Very, very temporal. What we are doing now, it meant that the president all along, it was his bill and he was watching it every minute. So he didn't need to take it back to the Attorney General. He didn't need to take it for any interpretation. It was his bill and he has passed what he wanted.
All right. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say, just the great work that civil society organizations like yours have continued to do in pursuant of good governance in Nigeria. Now, based on the statements released by CSOs since the assent to that law, there have been conversations around a missed opportunity for truly transformative, electoral reform in Nigeria. What are the next steps? Because whether we agree with it or not, or whether civil society organizations agree with it or not, it's the law as we currently have it. What are the next steps? How can we, despite the imperfections of this law as viewed by CSOs, still be used for promoting free, credible elections in Nigeria, and to encourage Nigerians to come out in 2027 based on the law, the voter apathy you have already identified in previous interviews? How can we maximize the process and ensure that we still push ahead for, free, fair, and credible elections?
It's very unfortunate that the Honorable Minister Keyamo, pointed out the issues about what the civil society, are doing. We are overwhelmed. Civil society organizations are overwhelmed. We need citizens to rise and be counted. There are some positive things, even in the 2023 general election, much as there were negative things because of the so-called glitches that happened that did not happen to National Assembly transmission. You find out that some people won their elections because their votes counted. At least the download of the voters' card, which has been talked about now, it will help many citizens to be able to print their voters' card. The issue of disability inclusion also is another area that where one is happy about. And then the issue of the penalties in terms of falsification. But how many people have been sent? How many people have all the arrests that were made during elections? Who has been sent to jail? The issue of sanctions, we need to come back to it. But what we cannot, the issue of electronic transmission of results that we're talking about, the networks that they're talking about, they're just holding water in their mouth when they are talking, as if they're talking to illiterate Nigerians. There are so many Nigerians that are educated, overeducated. And you're talking to them as if they are children. You already know that even with your WhatsApp, when there is no network, you send your messages, it will go when it will. The former INEC chairman said we have no issue with electronic transmission, but politicians happen to them, and they brutalize, the judiciary. So we are going to focus, because we are the employers, Nigerian people are the employers of this, because vacancy has been declared now. It will be declared. And people are going to contest for the presidency again and all the levels. It is Nigerian money that they are using to pay you. You need to answer to Nigerians. You find out now that nobody is saying, I pledge to Nigeria, my country again. So what are we operating by when you are moving yourself the way? I want to rest it on the shoulders of citizens. Don't leave it to civil society organizations. When they see us in some places saying, are you people not going to do this? What about you? The future of Nigeria is gradually drafting, weakening the system that we thought had been strengthened. What are we talking about? And if it is a ruling party, for example, you have about 30 governors. Okay, you have moved aside. You know, you have about 30 governors. Why are you afraid of electronic transmission? From the civil society, we are not the politicians. We want a transparent environment where we can choose our leaders freely. People, you know, are dying silently because of some inactivities, because of the over-impoverishment of Nigerians. And so we come back and you say, are we representing Nigerians? Were you representing Nigerians before? You were talking so much and then you are now a minister. And now you are looking back at us. And I tell people, when the people saw Peter Obi at the barricade, you know, during the protest, when we were at the National Assembly, in front of the National Assembly, they say, why is he here? Why was Tinubu there against Jonathan before? And so you cannot, so I'm even so sorry that, should I be sorry about it? That the opposition seems to be so weak that they are not mobilizing. And so we are still mobilizing. We are going to air our views. Some of the things that they have done, they may be satisfied with it, but why are we running away from ourselves? Conscience is a wound, and I want everybody, all of them, whatever they have done, they need to look at themselves.
So, with due respect, great to have you. Thank you for all your advocacy work. But what do you mean by mobilizing? It's a very big, nebulous word. I don't understand it. What do you mean by we will still keep mobilizing?
No, we will still have a protest. What I'm saying is...
what does it mean? I want practical steps so that, because the Nigerian people are listening to you. Because when you say you mobilize, what does mobilizing mean? We want practical steps. Now that we know, okay, we don't have, it's as good as we don't have an opposition. They are busy rigmaroling and all of that. It's only the civil society and probably, you know, some agents in the media based on our work on Section 22 in the Constitution of holding government accountable. So what is mobilizing? What are some of the actions taken? What's going to be the engagements? What's going to be the plan? What should the people be doing as we speak? How should they come together? What should they do? Should they still go out and vote? All right? When they go out and vote in an election day, what should they do? What should they ask? What should they insist on? Actions. Clear actions. What are those clear actions?
Some of the practical... Yes. When I say mobilizing, the civil society is coming together. We were out there and we are having a meeting, you know, very soon. When that meeting is done, of course, you get to know. But I want to say that, you know, mobilizing for 2023 election was very, very stressful. And now we are going back to mobilize when you are telling them that they are not sure their votes will count. When you improve the system, it builds trust. And when you improve the system, you know, you yourself, you should be happy about it. Nobody stays in power forever. If you cannot make the system better, if you cannot prepare the stage better than you met it, then you're a failure. We are facing a failure of a generation. The clarity that we sought was the electronic transmission, just like it's done in other climes. And I tell you, we need to believe in ourselves too. Our mobilization, some of it, the political education is that Nigerians need to learn to believe in themselves, that each of us have the power. The office of citizenship is the highest office in the land because we can decide who goes there and who will not go there. Even with all the rules that they have made, if every Nigerian can come out and make sure they vote, they're able to register. The continuous voter registration is ongoing. Now that the law is passed that you can register and also print your card, it means that some of the obstacles have been removed. And so that's why I say there are pros and cons. You know, so when we are talking of in the political education, in 2023, it was civil society that were doing political education. Parties are supposed to conduct political education for their members. They are not doing it. They only go out when it's election. They go on campaigns. There is a difference between that. INEC was supposed to conduct, civic education in 2023. They never did up to the time we're going into the election. Where are your IC materials? Because you are the ones giving us what to do. We continued. And they told me that the thing was still under construction. And the INEC itself, nobody has asked for the audited account. Nigerians who are going to face the audited account for the 2023 general election, we want the audited account. People need to be held responsible. We are holding ourselves accountable. Like I said, yes, we are going to mobilize, but it's a very difficult task that you are giving the civil society. Only 8 million people voted to elect a president. You know, and so the presidential count, what brought Tinubu to power is 8 million people. When we have more than 100 million who are qualified that are supposed to vote or be voted for. And so what we are looking at here is we are into planning. We're into, when I say we are into mobilizing, we'll still go to the National Assembly to let them know so that we can tell them, yes, you have done well here, but you didn't do well here, and we are watching you. And we'll tell the judiciary, we'll focus seriously on what the judiciary is doing. They cannot, you can go to court, should not be with $1 trillion or whatever amount, almost $1 trillion, you know, naira budget that the INEC has given. Don't tell us to go to court, because the court is not the one that should decide the election. More elections and pronouncements will be here. The FCT election is coming tomorrow. Is that why you made the pronouncement to see that you are so rooted on ground? Even when people are rooted, they can still be defeated. The German umpire is a card-carrying member of a political party, but he's the umpire of Germany, and he says there is no mix between the two. One is a professional job, the other one is a citizen's responsibility. And so when do we develop our citizenship? How can Nigerians? So this election will be mad if Nigerians don't come out. Don't leave it to the civil society. We observe. We are going to observe the election tomorrow, and we will be telling. We won't give, because we don't want to give up hope. If we give up hope, everybody will lie down. But Nigerians are at an existential period. They are in a survival mode. When you have more than 139 million Nigerians living below the poverty line, you weaponize poverty, and you take some money and you are offering them to vote for you. Nigerians, stand upright for yourselves. Stand upright for Nigeria. We need to continue to work. We will continue to struggle. The struggle continues. And I want to commend the media for the wonderful work they have been doing. And you think social media, we are just talking nonsense. We are going into the sun, you know, to stay in the sun for nothing. We are talking to you at my age. I'm still standing there to tell some people to do what is right when they are adults. What's the responsibility of an adult?
These elections that you refer to tomorrow, yes. That will be the first litmus test, because it will now have to be conducted under the Electoral Act 2026, happening just a few days after that bill became law. What are your worst fears that tomorrow? Because the law will have to be tested. It's when the law is tested that we see the outcomes. Do you think that the networks in Abuja will just fail tomorrow, or they will change the code, or what do you imagine will happen?
I think when we are talking about, you know, the network, I don't want to even go there, because the network is not an issue. They know what they are doing. They know the network is not the issue. Because the card, you know, before the beavers authenticates you, it accredits and bring you on board, and you say that same beavers cannot transmit. And we are saying the beavers, the configuration, it can upload right there and then, and everybody can see it. Don't tell us about glitches and what have you. Now, you made a law that is not up to maybe 72 hours, and people are going to implement that law. I think the lawyers will have to sort that out, because I'm not a lawyer. But how do you, after all the trainings have been done, how do they adapt? And one beautiful thing, we went to the new FCT chair, the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, because I'm still a member of the steering committee. We went to pay a visit to the chairman, and we saw the staff. We congratulated them for what they did in 2023, because to have someone so powerful to have lost an election in Abuja itself, and what the law actually says, is that you have to, it's a must for you to win 24, and also, and the FCT. The Supreme Court said, they went into interpretation with water in their mouth. We salute them, and we hope, we are watching the new chairman, and we hope that he will be able to do the needful. We also say well done to Nigerians who are going out there, stand upright and be a Nigerian that your grandfather and your ancestors will be proud of, not the one that you do something you know you are wrong and you are doing it. That's somebody that the spirit of your ancestors will be watching you from there and said, where did I get this one from?
Well, on that note, we would like to thank you very much, NLB, for joining us on the morning show.